Good evening and welcome. My name is Gina Kahn, and it is my pleasure tonight to welcome you on behalf of the Hampden-Wilbraham Partners for Youth Coalition to our program that we are so thrilled to be able to share with the District Attorney's Office Youth Advisory Board on social media and what parents need to know. This is part of an ongoing effort on the part of the Hampden-Wilbraham Partners for Youth Coalition, the Parenting Now series, and we have been over the course of the year looking at various topics that are always relevant to parents and to families, but perhaps have a little bit of a different sense of urgency in our COVID world. So before we get started and I turn the program over to our amazing group of panelists from the Hampden County District Attorney's Office and Youth Advisory Board, and Gina and Selmo, who will be, I believe, introducing them, I do want to welcome and tell you a little bit about the Partners for Youth Coalition. As you can see on the screen, this is who we are. We strive for a coordinated, comprehensive, collaborative, and sustainable plan of evidence-based activities and services to prevent and reduce youth substance use and promote healthy childhood development. Our activities focus on increasing awareness of community activities, environmental strategies, and local policies that lead to a shared responsibility of the roles that all of us play in teen substance misuse prevention, increasing protective factors, and decreasing risk factors. Our topic tonight is one that I think has been on people's minds for a long, long time. The idea of social media, of safety around social media, and that electronic world that has become such an integral part of our lives and the lives of our young people. But we also know that within that world, there are advantages and risks, and they are definitely connected to those risk factors that coalitions like ours work so hard to understand and to strategize around. Those strategies involve everyone's efforts, and we are so proud and so incredibly fortunate to have the amazing partnership with the Hampden County District Attorney's Office, with District Attorney Gallooni, with Tony Simmons, and Gina Anselmo. And I am at this point going to turn it over to them for tonight's program. I welcome you, and I'm going to have a few words at the very end, as well as an opportunity for you to do a very brief evaluation survey and give us a little bit of feedback. Also let us know what other kinds of programs might be of interest to you. Thank you so much, and take it away.
Thank you, Gina. Before we get started, I just wanted to say a few things. We are recording this now just to give everyone a heads up. And we also ask that you please mute yourself unless you are speaking. There will be a chance to ask questions and have more of a discussion in the end. And you can also throw some questions in the chat if they come up, during the PowerPoint, and we can address those at the end. But thank you so much. My name is Gina. I'm joined here. Like Gina said, we have two Ginas tonight. Like Gina said, I'm from the DA's office, specifically Community Safety and Outreach. So I have Tony here with me, who is the director of the unit, and we also brought some of our Youth Advisory Board students because they give a lot of great advice. That youth perspective is super important. And I would like them to introduce themselves. So we'll start with Grace.
Hi, everyone. My name is Grace Regan. I'm a senior at Westfield High School, and this is my second year on the Youth Advisory Board, and I am currently a leader on the Youth Advisory Board.
Jack?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jack Perenick. I'm the president of the Youth Advisory Board for the DA's office, and I go to school in Wilbraham, Massachusetts.
Malcolm?
Hi, everyone. My name is Malcolm, or Mac. I am a junior at Pope Francis Prep in Springfield.
Great, thank you. And we also have joined with us Assistant District Attorney Ingrid Frau.
Hi, good evening. You can ask me lots of questions. I love questions.
Yep, she's prepared. She's prepared to answer all the questions. So are the students. So, like I said, we do a lot of work in community safety and outreach. One of the big things that we do is bring awareness to current issues facing youth today. And now more than ever, especially during this whole pandemic, kids are online a lot, whether that be for virtual learning or on social media, connecting with friends and family. So, we know technology is always advancing. We talk a lot about applications and how there's an app for almost everything that you could think of. And of course, some are helpful, but we also know some have the potential to be dangerous if not used without taking certain precautions. So, throughout this presentation, we're actually going to hear from some of our students talking about those apps because they're the experts on how they function and all that good stuff. So we really just hope to guide parents, teaching them how to identify some of these apps and how to navigate them, specifically the popular ones among the youngest generation. And I'm going to bring up the youngest generation in a couple slides too. We refer to them as Generation Z today. So just like to start with the basics. There are a lot of ways that kids can access the internet. We know computers and laptops, very common, mostly for virtual learning. And then, of course, cell phones, very common, and gaming consoles. They all have the ability to connect to Wi-Fi, so they all have the ability to download any of those apps that are in the App Store. And speaking of apps, back to the basics, it's essentially just a software program that runs on your device. So whether it's that calculator, or your GPS, or if it's a social media app like Facebook or Instagram, all apps. Now, of course, these are just a select few. We decided to highlight these because of their popularity, and we know that there's a lot of apps out there. Sometimes it can be hard to keep up with all of them, but we hope that this is a good start. So Generation Z, youngest generation today, born between 1995 and 2015. Of the individuals that fall into this category, 95% of the 13 to 22-year-olds currently have a cell phone. And over half of Gen Z use their cell phone for about 5 or more hours a day. So a lot of the times I think parents are becoming frustrated that their child is always on their phone, which is absolutely understandable. But we also have to remember that this specific generation is the first born into a digital everything world, and they don't necessarily remember a time before the cell phones. And social media now is where a lot of them are connecting and forging relationships. So it's very important to address how to do it safely. So this is, I'd say, another basic concept. I think it starts with talking about how what you're posting online can affect your future. And specifically, maybe a college or scholarship opportunity with admissions officers using social networking pages to research an applicant. Very similar to this, how it can cost them a job opportunity when we see that employers are using social media to screen candidates. So of course, seeing an applicant with maybe inappropriate pictures or vulgar vocabulary on their social media can really ruin their chances of getting the job. So going back to the apps, we like to mention Instagram and Snapchat just because they are very, commonly used among the young generation. So I'm going to call on Grace. She's going to talk to us a little bit about Instagram and Snapchat.
So thank you, Gina. As you saw in one of the previous slides, we decided to start by labeling social medias into what we think are low risk, medium risk, and high risk. And both Instagram and Snapchat fell into the medium risk category. So I'm going to start with Instagram. This is an app that allows users to post photos and videos with the public or with a network of their followers. So we labeled this as a medium risk because there are dangers to the app, but there are also a lot of settings and ways you can make it safe. The dangers are cyberbullying concerns with offensive comments. There is options to direct message with people, and strangers can't access your account if you don't take the right steps. So there are ways to prevent this and make the app safe. You can make your account private. So this means that only your followers, which are people that you accept, can see your page and can contact you through that direct message. You can hide comments that are offensive by going through settings and clicking on the option that says hide all offensive comments, so you will no longer see any comment that Instagram would deem as inappropriate or offensive. And you can even report and block other users if you find them either contacting you when you don't want them to, or just find that their page is inappropriate. Moving on to Snapchat, this is a mobile messaging app where you can share photos, videos, texts, and drawings. And we think there are a couple things that parents should be aware of specifically. Snapchat is known for its disappearing messages. It's usually after 10 seconds, typically it's a photo, it just disappears. And that is the general assumption. However, there is things like screenshotting and other ways where young people may have their photos saved without their knowledge or with their knowledge. Because it's a common misconception that young people think that their photo is just going to disappear, this could make them more comfortable to send an inappropriate photo, which obviously we don't want. And also Snapchat has a location feature, which is called Snap Map. This feature allows your location on the map in real time every time you log on to Snapchat. So I would just swipe over on Snapchat and I can see anyone who has their location on. We'd still deem this as a medium risk because there are ways you can make this safe. There's a thing called ghost mode in the settings, and you turn it on and no one can see your location and no one can access your location. And we do recommend that it's important to put ghost mode on in settings. And Snapchat is also just a way of communicating, similar to how people would text. It is also just a communication social media, so we think it is just medium risk.
Great, thank you, Grace. I just wanted to add that in the handouts sent out prior to this presentation, there are a few on how to make that Instagram private, which is super important, and also how to disable the Snap Map feature on Snapchat. So just know that you do have that information. Moving on, TikTok, I'm sure that you guys have heard of it because it's kind of blown up recently, very, very popular. I believe Malcolm is going to talk to us a little bit about TikTok today.
Thanks, Gina. Yes, like Gina just said, TikTok has blown up recently over the past year, especially with the pandemic and everyone's on their phones. So TikTok is basically for creating, sharing, and discovering short videos. But there are a few things that we think parents should be aware of. For starters, suggestive content. With TikTok mostly being based off of music and video, profanity and suggestive clothing / dancing are available for viewing. We also want to address a privacy concern. So you are able to set your profiles to private in the privacy and safety settings within the app. And then we also would like to address that you should change the allow others to find me toggle. This is just an additional layer of privacy to prevent your child's account from showing up in search results. So this is mainly just to protect from predators and other people that you don't know on the app. And then another thing that we want to highlight is that you should change all the safety settings within the app to just the friends mode. The default safety setting for TikTok is everyone. But if you change it to friends, only your friends can post comments, do duet with you, which is essentially making another, like a reaction to your video. So we just think this is a great way to make sure that strangers can't comment or contact your child. And then another thing that is really important with TikTok is because the videos are so short, you can just keep scrolling endlessly and it really doesn't feel like a lot of time has passed by. So we want to talk about time management. And restricted mode as well for content that may be inappropriate. So both of these settings are available within the app. So if you want to only have like an hour of screen time or half an hour of screen time or prevent content that may be a little bit mature, you can do both of these in the app using a setting, and both require a 4-digit passcode so that parents can set that up, which is really important. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Mac. So overall, these three, TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, all fall into that medium risk. Of course, just encouraged to make those accounts private and shut off the location sharing. But if being used in good faith and taking those precautions, they can definitely be used safely. Now, of course, you know, with any app, especially the ones that allow for commenting and for direct messaging, there's always a chance for cyberbullying to occur. And we like to mention cyberbullying. Some of the prominent forms that we're seeing, and this is from a late study in 2020, and also from our own research with middle school students in Hampden County, are the ones that you see up here on the screen. Account hacking due to sharing passwords, posting derogatory comments, leaking photos and videos online, and harassment, whether that's in comments or in private messages or even in posts themselves. So like I said, we did a research project. We visited 8 middle schools across the county, and we talked to the students about their experience online and what they believed were the biggest issues that stem from social media. And I think the most common issue that, I'd like to say most of them, if not all of the schools had mentioned, was the idea of sharing passwords with friends. What typically happens is, if they're close, maybe if they're dating even, that it's a sign of trust, they'll share their passwords. So of course it wasn't very surprising to hear that the students' accounts were getting hacked, someone posting on their page saying mean things as if it was them, or in general posting inappropriate content on their page. With this particular issue, luckily it can be avoided altogether by simply, keeping passwords secure or only sharing them with parents or family members, who have the best interest in mind. And this is what we do encourage students to do, and actually asking the middle school students for their advice to their peers. They said, definitely keep your password secure no matter what. So luckily, that's something that can be avoided. And we try to encourage students, and especially, in middle school and high school, to be part of a community that, when they see posts or when they see derogatory or offensive comments, when they see this content, to report it. The more people who report something, the more likely it is to be taken down. So if they can continue to, create this community of people that really don't tolerate this behavior, it'll help them better overcome the situation, but also support others who might be going through the same thing, and create a community of friends who don't engage in this type of behavior. So I have a video here, moving on, of Bridget, who's part of our one of the students on our youth advisory board, and she provides a great youth perspective about how children are utilizing some of these apps like Snapchat and Instagram and TikTok, and also how she thinks parents can better manage their child's social media use.
Hi guys, my name is Bridget Duquette, and I'm here to kind of talk about and briefly introduce social media, about what I like about social media and what I think we can learn from it. The social aspect, it's really important for kids to foster relationships with their classmates, their teammates, their club mates, extended family. It's a really great place, especially in the pandemic when we can't really see people safely face to face. It's a really important outlet for us to continue to foster these relationships. One of the worst things, I think, kids in high school and just kids in general, feeling left out. And I think that it's important to acknowledge the important role that, and the large role that social media plays in kids' lives. And kids in sports, clubs, even classes, talk on these platforms. We talk about class, we talk about, we debate ideas, we talk about practices that are coming up, and we share a lot of information that kind of is vital to know, to make sure that you're staying on top of everything. And I think that kids that don't have access to that are really at a disadvantage. Another aspect of social media that I think it's really important to note and acknowledge is the large platform it has given kids to rally, to spread awareness for different causes, to kind of come together and push for change. Specifically apps like, and stay with me on this, apps like TikTok have been platforms where kids have, supported causes like social justice movements, spreading awareness for body positivity, mental health awareness. It's just really amazing to see how many people from all over the country, all over the world, that you can interact with that have the same beliefs as you, and who push for change in the same ways you do. And it's a very empowering thing. That's just a really great aspect of social media to me. One last thing I want to talk about that I think is definitely very important to parents is figuring out how to allow your kids to use these apps safely. And to me, the one thing I can say is regulation and communication over restriction, because the more you restrict your kids from having access to things, the more they're going to want to do it. And that's, that's very honest. That's what I think. And I think it's important for, and your kids might kill me for saying this, but I think it's really important for adults to get on these social media apps, see what your children are seeing, and spark conversation about it, about things that they're interested in, and show their child, be an example for the child, just like they are in every other aspect of life, the proper way to use technology and the proper way to use social media for learning and for communicating and fostering relationships with family and friends. It requires a lot of trust, between parents and kids. And when a child is trusted by their parent with this tool, that's very empowering to a kid. So I hope that kind of helped you guys understand. And yeah.
So I think Bridget had some great advice there, and keep in mind, like I said, these low and medium risk apps, how they do have the ability to be used safely, and these are the apps that Bridget is referring to. But there are a lot of apps out there that we believe young people in general really shouldn't be using at all. And these are the apps that we categorize as high risk. The high risk apps were red flag because they really allow and really encourage youth to meet new people, to meet strangers, which makes it easy for predators to target children. The high risk apps create an environment for grooming to happen. Grooming is essentially befriending and establishing an emotional connection with a child for the goal of either meeting in person or to exchange explicit photos. And that's why we like to highlight Tinder as one of these apps, and a couple more. But I'm going to ask Jack to talk to us a little bit about Tinder.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Gina. Excuse me. So to start off, we categorize Tinder of one of our highest concerns, specifically because of what the purpose behind it is. This is a dating app. It's particularly well known as one of the specifically intended for one-night stands. It's the kind of app that we really do not want anyone in our youth community involved with, and that's why we make it our highest concern. Not only because you have to lie about your age to use it as a minor, but moreover, because of the very dangerous effects that it can have. As Gina has said, this is an app that just encourages the meeting of other people in real life based off very little information about them. It is essentially bringing strangers into your life. It has a radius function, which essentially features just bringing strangers into your area from anywhere from 10 to 15 to 50 miles away from you. And it really has been a dangerous app where we've seen people that meet others using this technology have been hurt, and it's certainly not the kind of thing we want our youth involved with. It's also one of our red flag apps where if you do see this app on your child's phone, it's time to sit down and have a very serious conversation and say, this is not the kind of use of technology that we want to see in the household, because it does have dangerous implications. And well, with very few of these, we say, we don't even want to see it installed. This is one of these apps where if it's installed, you have a problem and something needs to be done to take action about that. And it also does to present a unique risk in the fact that it is one that is used specifically by predators, because there's very little verification that is involved with signing up. There's very little things that are involved for age verification, and again, of course, none of the images are in any way verified, and so that presents a particular risk, especially to youth that are using it. And our next app is kind of another one of these gateway apps that we see being a particular issue, and it's on the rise right now. The number 2 most downloaded app in the United States last month is Hoop, which is something that it will come as a new app to most of you. This is an app that is extremely unique because what it actually does is all social media is designed to be addictive. Hoop is designed, it literally gives you currency in its app currency that it calls diamonds for giving away your personal information, which is why this one's so particularly dangerous. So the way Hoop works is you put in your Snapchat information, one of the apps we discussed earlier, and Hoop will give you diamonds every time you give it away to a stranger. So it is directly rewarding, something that we do not want to see happening with users, and part of why Snapchat can become dangerous if it's being used in conjunction with something like Hoop. The Hoop app is another particular danger because it has a different level of age verification where, well, most people's Snapchats might be their actual age because Snapchat allows anyone over the age of 13 to use it. Hoop allows you to actually override the age you've put into Snapchat and lie about your age when you sign up to use this platform, which is a particularly bad design because it does allow users to lie to be either younger or older, bad in both directions when they sign up for this app. And again, this is an app that essentially the goal is to move the conversation onto Snapchat, where again, there's even less monitoring. These can be people from around the country. And like I said, this app, the only way you can continue to use it is if you continue to give away your personal information. So it presents a particular risk because there is that direct reward for giving away sensitive information. This is an app where, while having it doesn't necessarily produce bad effects, it very likely will. And so this is one of the apps where we say, if you see it, you need to sit down with your children and say, listen, we don't want involvement with something like Hoop because of the dangerous effects that it often does have. And it can lead into other bad apps like Tinder that have a very similar purpose. Hoop is designed in a very similar way to the Tinder app, where you're swiping through people, deciding if you want to meet them. And so it's a particular danger because it does kind of lead in and build acceptance for those kind of technologies. And so it's the kind that we really want people not to associate at all. And we want you to tell your children about the dangers of having an app like this and making sure they don't associate with it.
Thank you, Jack. So once that conversation, a concern that we have about, the conversation continuing in Snapchat with a stranger is kind of that concept that Grace had brought up earlier about how kids think, these messages and these pictures are disappearing. And if you have the understanding or, the belief that, okay, my pictures are disappearing, kids are sometimes feel maybe more inclined or more comfortable to send inappropriate photos. And when I say inappropriate photos, I mean nude photos. And this is a big issue amongst young people, where if these pictures get out, whether it spreads around school, whether it's within a dating relationship and, they love each other and, the pictures aren't going to get out. It's a big issue. And a couple of years ago, our youth advisory board made a video kind of depicting a scenario of this. So I'm going to play that video for you guys just to kind of get an idea of what we're talking about here. And then we're going to hear a little bit from Ingrid about that.
Watching the Patriots game this weekend. Dude, you can't miss it. Yeah, I'm so excited. I feel like Tom Brady and the Patriots really have a good chance against the Chiefs. Yeah, not as many people are injured. Everything's going well. We've been in the Chiefs the last couple of times. It's gonna go great. Yo, check this out. Yo, you gotta send that to me. All right. All right, there you go. Got it. You gotta send that to me too.
Is she serious?
So this is a big issue, obviously a very serious one. So I'm gonna play a quick video. Ingrid talks a little bit about the implications and what happens in these situations.
So in the video that we just watched, you saw that there was a girl, she was reading a book, and then her boyfriend Nate asked her to send a hot picture. And the question is, can he get in trouble for asking her to take a hot picture? And by hot picture, it implies an inappropriate picture, a pornographic picture. So in this scenario that we just watched, Nate can get in trouble for requesting a hot pic, a pornographic, inappropriate picture from the girl who was reading the book. Not only can he get in trouble, but if she ends up taking the picture, she can get in trouble for taking the picture and sending the picture over to Nate. Once Nate has the picture, he can get in trouble for simply having it on his phone and not reporting it. Once he sends it to his friends, as we saw in the bleachers, they each can get in trouble for having the picture of the girl who was reading, and Nate can also get in trouble additionally for sending it. So Nate is in a whole world of trouble for asking that the picture be taken, for accepting the picture, keeping the picture, and sending the picture. And every time that picture is forwarded to other people, whether they be other students or adults in the school, all those people can get in trouble for forwarding it along. Requesting a picture of an underage person of pornographic material, that is a felony. Sending it is a felony. Keeping it is a felony. And taking it is a felony. So they're all felonies. A felony is a crime that is usually handled in superior court, and it is different from a misdemeanor because there is a possibility that the defendant, whoever it is, can be sentenced to state prison. A misdemeanor, you can only be sentenced to the House of Correction. Here it would be in Ludlow in this county. So if you are either under 16 or an adult and you receive a pornographic picture, an inappropriate picture of someone under the age of 16 or over the age of 16, to be honest, and you don't want it, you didn't ask for it, you don't like it, you don't want it, but you just have to tell an adult that you trust, someone at the school, someone at an after-school activity, someone's parent, and then you are not in trouble. That's not who the law is going to get in trouble. So at the beginning, we saw that Nate asked the girl to send the picture, and she had the option, yes or no. Initially, she said no, so she had control over her body, over what happens. Once she said yes, and she forwards that picture to Nate, as you saw, she no longer has any control over that picture. So he sends it to his friends sends it to other people, everyone at the school. It looks like some adults got those pictures. Once you forward a picture, whether it's of you, a cute puppy, a new pair of shoes that you bought, it is out of your control where it lands. And it is very easy to land in the hands of a gross, inappropriate adult. As we saw at the end, the guy with the button-down shirt looking at his computer, he seemed to enjoy the inappropriate picture of the girl, and that's just disgusting. So once you send a picture, it's out of your hands. You have no idea where it's going to be. Let's say I receive one of those pictures and I don't want it, I don't want to see it, I don't want to talk about it, I don't want to report it, so I just delete it. If police have a reason to get into your phone as a result of an investigation, let's say they need to get into the girl's phone, or they need to get into Nate's phone because they knew that he asked for it, or they knew that she took it and sent it, whether or not anything is deleted or erased, the phone can still produce that image. So what police departments have is this little machine. I don't quite know what it looks like, but it does a phone dump. Basically, it's a little plug. It plugs into your phone, whether it's a Samsung, whether it's an iPhone, whatever kind of phone it is. And your phone just kind of spits everything out that it has ever done. Anything that you search is going to be saved. Anything that you receive is going to be saved. Anything that you delete is going to be saved. Any text messages that you send, that you receive, that you type, it's all saved. I cannot emphasize it enough. So even if you restore your phone to its original settings, to the store settings, manufacturing settings, it is still going to be in the hard drive, and police are going to be able to get everything from the phone. I know we've had some questions like, what if I hit my phone with a hammer? What if I drop it in the pool? What if I run it over with my car? We can still get the information from the phone. So you have to be very careful about what you do with the phone and what you accept on your phone and what you send from your phone, because it can be retrieved by police departments. So let's say in the video we saw that there was at least 1 or 2 adults that got this photo, either on purpose or by mistake. When an adult gets a picture, they have to report it to the police department. Once the police department gets involved, they will probably go to either Nate and or the girl who took the picture and sent it, or to anybody else that was involved in forwarding this picture. Because they are minors, because they are under the age of 18, those students' parents will have to get involved. And when they get involved, we print out the picture in question, or pictures, or inappropriate text, whatever it may be, and we have to share that information with the parents, because the students are under 18, they're not adults yet.
So certainly a lot of information, and we'll have the opportunity to ask Ingrid any questions if you have any regarding photos. But we did want to highlight one last app, simply because it relates to this situation, called the Secret Photo Vault. And I'm going to ask, Mac is going to talk to us about that today.
Thanks, Gina. The first app that I want to talk about is the Secret Photo Vault. Essentially what this acts as is a second storage app for like a second version of your camera roll. However, these hide private pictures in a secret album. So actually what you'll see a lot is this one kind of looks like a calculator, but another similar version is called Fake Calculator. And the actual icon of the app is disguised to look like other apps. So if a parent is going through a child's phone, they may not recognize it right away. They may also require a password for entry. So what we want to say is, like, these apps, not only are they everywhere, there's multiple versions on the App Store and on the Play Store. So there's plenty of versions. So you just need to be careful about that because they're everywhere. But they also encourage the possession of inappropriate photos and videos. So like Jack said earlier with Tinder and Hoop, you don't ever want to see this app on your child's phone, because 9 times out of 10, they probably have something inappropriate. So you really don't ever want to see this on the phone, because it means they probably have something they shouldn't. So we just want to make this aware to parents, because they are disguised, they are very secretive, they may require passcodes, and this is something that's often overlooked when talking about internet safety, are these like hidden photo apps.
Thank you, Mac. Yeah, so that we definitely like to, group this with this issue, just because, if it's there, then the chances are there's something inappropriate. So that really brings us to our panel discussion. If anyone has any questions, whether it be for Ingrid, I know that the sending the inappropriate photos, sending nude photos is a very touchy topic. If anyone has any questions, that's why we have Ingrid here, and she is very willing to answer any questions that you guys have. Or Ingrid, if you wanted to add anything, I know that you talk a lot in that video, but
I just wanted to stress the Snapchat. I know that was addressed, and a lot of, well, everyone, adults and teenagers, get the impression and are given the impression that Snapchat photos disappear after a little bit. And like it was said before by one of the Youth Advisory Board panelists, it is stored in that hard drive forever. The person taking it and the person receiving it. And of course, you can take screenshots and take a picture of it and keep it forever. So I know people get a little bit more daring on Snapchat, but it's a terrible idea.
And the screenshots are very common too. I know that you get, a notification saying, so-and-so screenshotted your photo. Okay, you know that, but now there's really nothing you can do about it. They have it on their phone. I saw a question in the chat. Can you track the kids when they sign up or on these sites? There are a lot of third-party apps you can download that do a lot of things like managing screen time or getting notifications about certain keywords that show up. And we actually, in the handouts we sent out, one of them is parental resources, and there's a lot of options there. Some are free, and some have a small charge. And I also know that the iPhone and the Android do have in their settings their own ways to monitor that those types of things too. But there is a lengthy list.
And if I might just interject here, you don't even need an app to monitor all this stuff. The good news about apps is if you have an Apple or an Android smartphone, you can turn on what's called require approval. And so that'll require anytime your child wants to download a new app you haven't approved, it'll on your phone or your computer pop up, hey, so-and-so, your child is trying to download this app, do you approve? And then you'll know what it is, and you'll have to actively approve it for that download to take place. So that's something you can do. You don't need to then do any monitoring because they won't be able to get any apps which you haven't approved yourself. And that also saves, it means that they can't make purchases too, which can also be a good thing to try and avoid.
I see another one in the chat here. This one might be more for Ingrid. I work with youth and families, so what steps should we recommend if or when this happens, whether they're caught sending or receiving the photos? I know you mentioned deleting and reporting it to the police, but is that all?
I am muted. I mean, there has to be, and I know, again, this was addressed by Youth Advisory Board panelists, but conversations need to be had. And if it's something, I mean, yes, deleting it, reporting it, yes, have to do that. If it's something that's like 1 or 2 pictures and maybe they're just kind of skirting the edge of inappropriateness or something that you just rather not see, but it's not in the red zone, so to speak, that's one thing. If you see a whole roll of pictures or they are receiving from multiple people or they are sending to multiple people, blatantly explicit texts or pictures of their private parts, then you have a real problem on your hands. And I'm just a lawyer. I am not a therapist, but I mean, I would think that therapy might come into play. And honestly, cutting off access to the phone. I know we're supposed to, at times work within certain boundaries and build up trust. But I mean, if the train is fully off the tracks, there's no reason for that child to keep the phone. There is no reason. But that's my 2 cents, more as a parent than as an attorney. Any safety tips or settings? Oh, for the house party app. I don't know. So I will let somebody else answer that because I don't know that app.
I can also answer this one, and I like to answer this one with a bit of an analogy. So the house party app is exactly what it sounds like, right? And so kind of ask yourself, would you let your children bring a group of people to your house and allow those people each to invite a friend that they can then bring into your house? And I see some of you kind of shy away from that suggestion. But that's what house party is, just in a virtual format. Your friend, they can invite their friends, but those friends can then invite anyone they want and bring them in. And the very simple solution to this is just don't use House Party. Use another video sharing service that just requires you to use people that you know. So things like FaceTime or Zoom, like we're using now. I think Grace has something to add on that front.
Yeah, there are settings on the House Party app. So if it already is on your child's phone, there are ways to make it safe. Like Jack said, it's basically a big group FaceTime. However, you can be private, which means like you'd only know your friends. And there are options to make your room, as they call it, blocked, which basically means like if it was just me, Jack, and Malcolm in the room, I could then hit the lock icon, and that basically means no one can come into the room. It's going to stay just us. But there are, as Jack said, I would recommend FaceTime, and you can do group FaceTimes, and it's a bit of a safer option.
Just going by which ones were submitted first, what is the role of school administration when pictures or texts that are not appropriate are shared at school?
School administration are mandated reporters to the Department of Children and Families and to their local police departments. So if there are pictures and texts that are not appropriate, and by not appropriate, I'm going with pornographic, not just mean or, I don't know, tasteless jokes, let's say. They are mandated to report to the police department and to DCF, and I assume that they would report to the children's parents or guardians, whoever's involved. Right, so that is what they have to do.
What about TikTok challenges, engaging in inappropriate behavior, encouraging bad behavior? Now, I'm under the impression, I know TikTok has a discover page. Who you are following and what type of content that they're posting is kind of correlates with what you're going to see on, your discover page. So, and if any of the kids have a response for this too, feel free. But if someone is following accounts that, are being used in good faith, have appropriate posts and videos, then what they're seeing on their feed is all going to be appropriate, and their discover page as well, because this is what they're interested in. Now, if they're starting to follow pages that might have, vulgar vocabulary or inappropriate dancing, then TikTok is going to say, okay, they're interested in this content. Let's show them more of it because we know that they're interested in it. So I think a big thing is monitoring who you're following and who's following you.
And Gina, if I can just butt in here for a second, I've gotten several private messages on the subject. So I've shared just the article from Apple about how it is that you actually go through on your device, turning on require approval for purchases. And so that's just in the chat there.
Perfect.
And then also just for TikTok, there is a setting called restricted mode, which you can turn on in the app settings, which basically limits the appearance of content that may not be appropriate for all audiences. But it can also always be turned off by the person who enabled it. So that your children do have the ability to potentially turn it off if they want to, but that is just an in-app safety feature for preventing explicit content from showing up on your feed.
Fantastic. And this one is for Ingrid. Is cyberbullying something that a minor can be charged criminally for?
Short answer, yes. I remembered something else about that I wanted to mention about the school administration and what their role is if they come across inappropriate texts and messages and pictures maybe. Kids, I say kids, but young adults, kids, what have you, when they're in school, they don't have privacy rights. I know a lot of kids are like, you can't search my locker, it's my constitutional right. You can't take my phone, you can't do this, can't do that. Yes, they can. Kids do not have many rights in school, certainly not a lot of privacy rights. So if teachers and school administration feel that there is a need to search someone's locker as part of an investigation into inappropriate or pornographic texts and pictures, they can do that. They can take the phone. They can't look through it, but they can take it away from the child and then, give it to their parent or guardian. So kids don't get to have privacy when they're in school. Cyberbullying. There is no specific crime for cyberbullying in Massachusetts. However, there is a crime of criminal harassment, which is encompassing of a lot of type of harassment, which can include cyberbullying. So for criminal harassment, you would need to show that there's at least 3 instances that you were targeted. It wasn't just, someone being a jerk generally. They were being a jerk to you personally, and that it caused you substantial emotional distress. And that can vary from person to person. There's nothing really specified, but it's basically just trying to say they can't just be minor instances. They have to really rise to the level that maybe you're concerned about your health and safety. Maybe you're losing sleep, you're having nightmares if you worry about encountering this person, and you can get a restraining order. You'd have to go into court, whether you're a minor or an adult. You'd have to go into court and apply for a harassment order against that other person, and the judge could order that other person to have no contact with you, not abuse you, stay a certain distance from you, and the contact would be direct and indirect, so they can't send other people to send you messages, or they can't send emails, they can't send cards to your house, letters, so on and so forth. So criminal harassment would cover cyberbullying. And of course, if there's ever a threat, like I will kill you, I will, set your house on fire, I will break your laptop, I will, so on and so forth, that itself is a crime, threat to commit a crime. So we have that.
Thank you. Regarding parental resources, what is the best app for blocking inappropriate content? Also, what will prevent a child from disabling or deleting the monitoring app from their phone? I think I think this is probably just my opinion, and if anyone has any apps that they particularly prefer, I think Bark is a really great one for blocking inappropriate content. That one's on the sheet as well. A lot of these apps will either not allow a child to change the settings, or if they do change them, notify you if that happens. But I think it's also really important to not just spring this on a child and say, okay, I'm getting this app because I want all this information blocked from you. I think a big thing is talking to them about why it's there, and that you're doing this for a reason, and it's, because there's a lot of stuff out there that may be harmful to you, and so this is something that's going to help with that. But specifically to your question, a lot of them, if not most of them, will either not give them the ability to change the settings, or it will notify you if you do. And Bark is just one of my favorites. I don't know if anyone else has any preferences.
Jack, did you have something? Yeah.
I don't know if Tony had
No, I was asking Jack. I said, Jack, did you have something to say?
Yes.
I saw you. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say the best way to prevent inappropriate contact is an honest conversation with your children. Again, talking about the motivations of why it is that you want to help protect them from certain corners of the internet, because the most important thing you can do, and the one thing I hope you take out of this tonight, is that if you can instill in your children the desire to be safe online, not through fear, but through honestly wanting to have the safest and the most productive online experience that they can, you'll see results even when you're not there to monitor, even when they're in their complete and total privacy, you'll see responsible use of the internet. And so really just sitting down and instead of giving a rule or prescribing some sort of restriction, really talk about why it is that the internet can be a dangerous place and what areas you can use to make it the most safe for them.
This session is being recorded, by the way. I saw that in the chat. And Gina, Gina will be posting the recording on the Hampden-Wilbraham Partners for Youth Coalition website, and she will send an email to all registered participants as soon as it's posted. Do we have any more questions, comments, concerns? You're welcome.
One thing I like some of the students to talk a little bit more, because I like to end on the positive things and your experiences with social media and how it has helped you out. So if not, a couple of you just comment a little bit on that with social media. I know it's all doom and gloom, and yes, there are big safety concerns that parents most definitely have to be aware of. But Jack and some of you guys just talk about how you
Yeah.
use.
Absolutely. And I would say, as the chair of the social media committee at the district attorney's office, the number one thing that we've seen help teens, especially in this year of COVID, is the connections that you can build on what we've identified as our low and intermediate risk apps. When you can have an honest conversation with people, when you can use video messaging, these things help keep people from meeting in person while still maintaining interpersonal connections. It helps build strong social relationships. You build a support system that can be very helpful. When you do encounter issues on the internet, you have people that you know are there to back you up. This is really one of the best places where, if you use the internet responsibly, especially this year, it can be a way to build connections with people in your community and stay involved, even when this year's pandemic has kept everything socially isolated.
I mean, I use social media a lot actually to learn, especially if we're considering YouTube social media. I think there are some great educational opportunities, but also I don't use it necessarily as much for connecting with friends as much as it is for connecting with different organizations. So like if I'm interested in learning about a nonprofit or working with a nonprofit, social media is just a great way to get in contact with people efficiently, especially because email inboxes can get full really fast. So if you want to connect with an organization quickly, that's probably a really good way to do it. And that's why I use social media a lot. Yeah, that's another aspect to it.
And the one aspect of social media I really like, especially since I'm a senior in high school, it's really helped me with just the college process. From you can try to start talking to people who have both got accepted to your college if you're trying to find a roommate. It helped me when I was just looking at what colleges I wanted to apply to. You can go on, like, most colleges have an Instagram and other social medias. You can learn stuff about a school that you wouldn't have known. And I just think, going off of that, social media has so many benefits that aren't necessarily, if you look up what can Instagram do for you, what can Snapchat do for you, it's not going to give every single thing that it benefits. But as Jack was saying, especially during this time when you can't go on a college tour, you can't go hang out with your friends, it's really helping people stay mentally healthy and honestly just be as happy as we were pre-pandemic, and also hopefully to help with our futures.
Awesome. Fantastic. I'd say that is a great positive note. And to what Max said, I also like using YouTube. TED Talks are fantastic. I see him nodding. Thank you very much. I know, Gina, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about next events for the coalition. Are you muted?
Sorry, yeah, I had to unmute myself. So absolutely. First of all, though, thanks, and a final note of thanks to Tony Simmons, to Ingrid Frau, to Gina Anselmo, Grace, Jack, and Mac for their expertise tonight and their inspiring leadership on the Hampden County District Attorney's Youth Advisory Board. And of course, the District Attorney, Anthony Gallooni, thanks to him for his unwavering support of programs like this, and for all his efforts and his department's efforts to keep our communities and our youth safe and healthy and strong. I also want to mention and thank Jenna Swetchuk. She's behind the scenes in our Hampden-Wilbraham Partners for Youth Coalition as our coordinator, but she continues to keep that Parenting Now series going strong. And we hope that along those lines, you'll take just a moment before you say goodnight to scan that QR code or use the link in the chat and fill out that very brief feedback form. We also encourage you to visit that coalition webpage that you see on the screen, where we post recordings of all presentations, including the amazing presentation that you saw tonight. So if you'd like to see it again or share it with people that you know will appreciate and want this information, it will be available. And along with a wide range of resources for parents and professionals on topics of concern. You'll also find information on how to register for upcoming programs, and we are looking forward to doing 2 programs in March, one for parents of younger children and one for parents of middle and high, from the Search Institute on using developmental assets to form strong relationships in our families. And so please keep in touch and stay tuned to our website for more information. If you registered for tonight's presentation, you will get an email letting you know that this program is ready for viewing and how to register for subsequent programs going forward. We also invite you to take a youth mental health first aid course or to join us on the Coalition's website, where you'll learn about how you can help us plan for upcoming events. We not only welcome your involvement, but we need all voices in the community to keep these important conversations like tonight going. I thank you again for your participation tonight. I hope to see you again soon. And with that, I'll send it back to Gina for any last words.